Stone took third. Gross took second. And Smith over to first base again, not in time to get Stone. For a few, fill out all five.
This one's got all the sugarless hum underneath it.
Right here. Smell that hickory and those fresh ground spices? Oh, wait till you smell Heinz cooking and taste.
Lo que la gente cuenta, translated in English, What People Tell, is a Mexican horror thriller and anthology series created by Alejandro Rodriguez for TV Azteca since November 20th, 2005. The series recreates popular Mexican horror legends. It first premiered on Azteca 13 and then revived and transferred to Azteca 7 in 2019. The program focuses on horror and suspense stories based on real events. Only the names of the characters were changed and also a title change of the story. Each episode of the series presents a story in which the main characters encounter multiple paranormal manifestations and strange beings and have to find a way to get rid of them. Some of the characters were really thrilling at the time if you were to watch this show at a very young age. So without further ado, hello everybody and welcome to Creep Show. And for today's video I got 6 of the most creepiest episodes of Lo que la gente cuenta. What People Tell. In this episode, El Coco, which translates to the Boogeyman, tells the story of Hector, his mother and grandmother, who have just arrived in a new apartment. It doesn't take long for the child to perceive strange things happening in his new home, starting with unexplainable noises coming from the closet in his bedroom. These events cause Hector to begin and wet the bed, and also begins to be quite afraid of being alone in his room. But what he tells his grandmother and mom, none of them believe him. However, little by little his grandmother begins to witness the paranormal phenomenon that occurs in this new apartment, ranging from objects falling to hearing a peculiar and quite disturbing whistle, which foretells the presence of the terrifying spirit in their home. At the same time, while this occurs, we are told in the episode that in the town there has been unexplainable disappearances of boys and girls. As the episode progresses, the atmosphere of tension increases little by little, because in addition to the paranormal manifestations that are becoming stronger and stronger, there is also the problem that nobody believes the word of the child except for his grandmother. A very interesting moment comes when El Coco grabs Hector by his legs and pulls him towards the closet, while the boy screams in desperation and is saved when his grandmother arrives and turns the bedroom lights, finding him with half of his body inside the wardrobe. Finally, the woman decides to go and ask help from Father Manuel, the priest of the community, who reveals to her that some years ago similar things had occurred, a series of disappearances that coincided with what was happening at her home. The witnesses have also claimed to have heard of a whistle and that the children would tell their parents that somebody was watching them and wanted to take them inside their closets. In the middle of this, Mother asked the father and another priest to go and bless her home, though engaging in a strong battle against the spirit that inhabited the home. In the middle of this, Father Manuel leaves the room in fear and leaves the other priest, whom loses his life at the hands of El Coco. Hector's grandmother convinces the priest to go and do the same to their home, and he agrees, against his will. However, after the ritual of liberation, in which the father is hit in the head by an object, he decides not to continue and leaves the town, but not before telling the child's grandmother that the only solution is to move out from that apartment. The desperate woman, and with no one to turn to, approaches her daughter's new love interest and asks him to convince her to move out. Because Hector's in terrible danger, The young man agrees and begins to investigate what is happening, then to finding a book based on legends of New Spain, where he finds the story of El Coco. According to this story, a very evil man arrived from Spain to the newly colonized American lands. Once here, he began to buy and sell slaves to a massive fortune, in which was wasted on alcohol and women. This life of excess gave him syphilis in a very short time, which led him to lose his mind. Once in the ruin, sick and mentally transformed, the subject began to walk streets he lived with his sack in his hand, kidnapping children, mainly indigenous, to eat them. The town, fed up with, joined each other and hunted the man down, just as he was trying to kidnap another child, so they beat him to death. Since then, his evil spirit began to cause these paranormal events to occur and never stopped. The young man then reaches out to the priest to get help, but he refuses, as he is preparing himself to leave the town, positioned as a cleric. But at that moment, he receives a phone call from Hector's mom, who was finally able to see the spirit that tormented her son. At this point, the final part of the episode occurs, with the mom's love interest, whose name is Angel, goes and helps them out with a cross that the priest gave him to overcome the spirit. But the ending is bittersweet because the grandmother is pulling her grandson out the closet because El Coco was dragging him in there to take him again. As she sees his face, she dies from a heart attack, and soon Hector, his mom, and Angel leave immediately with the dead grandmother. This was one of the scariest episodes to ever watch, and the first one I ever watched as a kid. But imagine how many kids were left terrified from watching this episode. Santiago recently joined the circus company where his brother Israel works, and who he had already warned that it was not a good time to join, due to there being strange things happening in that place. The clown Becker, the biggest of their attractions, is missing, but Santiago claims to see him constantly, or at least someone who keeps dressing up like him. But one day, Israel appears dead, and everyone suspects another worker named Raul, the knife thrower, who had been having a strange attitude with the rest of the company, and is too attached to Don Armando, the owner of the circus. When the police officer named Roca appears and realizes that Becker was a serial killer, Don Armando and Raul get rid of the police officer, which leads the owner to confess to Santiago that he had killed the clown. Apparently, he fed the clown to the lions so the animals could finish his dirty work, and so he would ruin the reputation of the circus. And the mysterious image that has appeared throughout the episode, appearing disguised as Becker, is actually the ghost of the evil clown, who returned from the beyond to get his revenge. Nacho and his friend nicknamed the Dog are two young men who are dedicated to robbing people. When Nacho's mom gets real ill, the Dog tells Nacho to ask the Santa Muerte for help, but to remember that he has to offer something in return, and that if he doesn't keep his promise, the consequences could be real serious. His mother later recovers and he offers to stop stealing and to find a decent job. But when he tries to change, life still throws dirt at his face, and he sees no other way to except go back to his old ways. But to make matters worse, his mom throws away the altar that he created because she considered it satanic. Since the statue returns to the same place and Nacho has not been able to keep his promise, his mother dies, and he tries to break the bond with the Santa Muerte, but he fails. Instead, as a punishment, the Santa Muerte leaves him in misery and without money, condemned to pay dearly for not having kept his promise. Patricia, Diego, and Gustavo, Edgar's colleagues, a reporter who was killed in action, go to the place where he was last seen to find out what he was investigating. When they arrive, they meet a man by the name of Augusto Aguirre, who greets them with the warning on not to enter the cave where Edgar had entered, the Devil's Cave. The character named Diego, worried and scared by this man, he later calls Gustavo his boss to investigate who this man was because he distrusts him. When they follow Edgar's trail, they realize that he was staying at the house of a woman named Adriana, who has recordings and documents that he had asked her to keep safe for when he returned. But since he never returned, she gives it to Edgar's friends. Meanwhile, Augusto, who according to Gustavo's information, turns out to be a suspect in the disappearances, he takes Patricia to the cave, where Diego manages to follow them. The Devil's Cave is cursed by a man who ate his partner alive when they both got lost in there, to which his body and spirit transform into a monstrous being that feeds on those who invade his territories. Patricia and Diego leave Augusto so that the beast can eat him, and they manage to leave the town. But Gustavo, their boss, doesn't run with the same luck when he goes to find them both. I understand why this episode is one of the most feared of the series. Mauricio and Jose live off the pension of their grandmother, who owns a strange-looking puppet. One day, when Jose returns home, he realizes that his grandmother passed away, but he doesn't tell anyone since they will lose the only source of income they had up to that moment. So he makes the decision to turn into a macabre puppet. As crazy as it sounds, he convinces his brother to keep this secret, so they can continue to have something to live on, and not tell anything to their cousin named Anna. But however, they can't stop her from visiting them, and although Jose does his best to prevent her from going up to his grandmother's bedroom and discover her horrible creation, the curiosity is more stronger, and Anna finds out everything. Although her and Mauricio don't harm Jose except to escape from him, you later see a mysterious force drag him to the darkest part of the house, and it turns out the creepy puppet grandmother owned was passed from generation to generation throughout the family, and was destined to protect its family, or even its previous owner. A fireball falls near a ranch where a baby was just born, which means that a witch came for him to eat him. While everyone in town is packing their bags to leave that place, Leopoldo's wife Olga goes into labor early, so now they can't escape. Well, it would be dangerous for the mother and baby. Mrs. Jose, the midwife, and the only one who has faced the witch, stays to protect the woman and the newborn, so this evil being can't do anything to satisfy her hunger. So the witch remembers it has captured one of the town's adult virgins named Juan, who she bewitches so that he obeys her to ruin the family's escape plans, and manages to bring her prey to her. And unfortunately, the good doesn't always combat the evil in most of these episodes. So it ends with Juan unfortunately giving the newborn to the witch, and she disappears at the end with the baby. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. This was Creepshow, and I wish you all a good scare.